Hello and welcome to IABM TV. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Alex Grossman, Chief Marketing Officer for Symply, a global distribution brand. Alex, welcome to IABM TV.
Ben, thanks for having me here. Really happy to be here.
So Alex, Symply Workspace is described as an expandable desk-side multi-user storage solution for collaborative editing. Can you tell me a bit more about what makes it a desk-side and how many users can connect to it?
Sure, that's a great question and one that we get all the time. The desk side concept is the idea that you don't need to, in order to have a complete workflow, a storage workflow in your either post or broadcast environment, or taking it on site, you don't have to have a complicated rack and specialized rack cooling and a full infrastructure in order to do today. You can get that same level of performance by just having a system that sits on the desk side. It's essentially the size of a tower computer, or maybe a little wider than that and a little bit taller, but essentially a tower computer that could sit on a desk or on a desk side, and then you can share it out to many users. It gives you the ability of being able to make it not just portable, but the idea that it doesn't require cooling, it doesn't require a rack, and it's what we would call office sound level. So it's not loud at all. You could work around it. You could literally have it on your desk and work, and you get all that capacity and performance all in this one system. Everything is built in.
Excellent. And so who did you have in mind that would benefit most from a desk-side footprint system?
That's a great question. We actually have a lot of customers. Symply has been around for a number of years, and being part of global distribution, who's been around 25 years, we have a lot of customers in primarily the smaller post, independent areas, as well as people like doing DIT work, remote site work. We found that a lot of what's been changing in the industry is that the big studios still have large infrastructures, but they're using more independents now. A lot of companies have broken up into groups of 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, even up to 8 people working, sometimes up to 8 editors, but not really a lot more than that. And they don't really have the both money to be able to buy big infrastructures or the space. A lot of them just don't have that space to do it. So what we found is that in order to save money, in order to save time, the hassle of setting all that up and hiring people to do it, that we found that these smaller post facilities were somewhat ignored. Buy a rack or do this, you don't have a choice. Very few people were building what I'd call a high performance SAN system to be able to do that. And you found a lot of these, what I'll call lower end systems that didn't deliver quite the same level of performance or capabilities, but no one had built a really high performance, enterprise class system. And we just felt it was good. And it's been very well accepted with that crowd. And in fact, people who can take it remote, it's lightweight, relatively lightweight. I mean, anything with hard drives and storage is going to be fairly heavy, but you can carry it around. You can move it around. You can set it up in 15 minutes. You can be up and running.
Okay, so let's talk connections. So you chose Thunderbolt 3 to connect users. Why not just go with 10 gigabyte Ethernet like so many others seem to be doing?
Yeah, and that's an excellent question. And we did consider that. Obviously, there's a lot of systems out there that people consider NAS or network attached. And those systems, they generally work. I mean, if you really look at what people want to do with the system, they want to do high-speed editing, they want to do 4K editing, they want to do color correction. There's these very sophisticated functionalities that we do today, and you want to do them fast. You don't want to wait. What we found is that with most of these NAS-based or 10 gig systems, whether they call them Ethernet SANs or they call them NASs, there's really little differentiation in there. In reality from the technology, is that they're based on a collision-based network. Ethernet is a network that's made to transfer small packets of information. And in our world, what we do is we don't want to transfer packets of information. We want to work on large streams of information. And when you're talking about something like a 4K stream, even if it's ProRes 4K stream, or you're talking about HD streams, multiple streams of editing, you don't want any interruptions. And what we found is that with every single Ethernet system that's out there, there's no way they can guarantee reliability. So there's really only a couple guaranteed in-order delivery systems that are out there. There's Fiber Channel, there's InfiniBand, and there's Thunderbolt. And so we chose Thunderbolt to do this because we wanted a system that worked like a traditional SAN, something that you would pay, you know, $50,000, $100,000 or more to do to service your organization, have to buy racks and cooling. But with those systems, you simply work on your workstation and all of your data lives on the centralized SAN. And at your workstation, you're just talking to it over a cable, in this case, Thunderbolt, but you're not touching that data. So that data is always there and always intact in a RAID protected system. And you can work at high speed with multiple users at high speed. And so it just works. With a NAS system, you're not guaranteed that you're always going to be able to edit over the wire, especially as you add more people. With 1 or 2 users, probably okay. You get to 3 or 4 users, it starts to get a little sketchy. Occasionally you're dropping frames. Occasionally you're having an audio problem. You don't really know what it is. You go back and you redo it. So it might take you 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. You got everybody kind of upset now because their stuff didn't work. It's almost a guarantee. So what most people do with those systems, especially the ones that are in the cost range of where the Symply Workspace is, they just grab the file, drag it locally, work locally, push the file back. The problem with that is version control. So if you got multiple people doing that exact same thing, which is the last file you worked on? How do you know? And the other problem is you have that file down locally. While it's locally, it's on a single hard drive. So if you have a problem, well, guess what? You know, SSDs, hard drives, they're not 100% reliable. You could lose the data and you could lose it in transport depending on what the quality of your network is. And so we chose Thunderbolt, which is probably the, in today's world, the easiest interconnect there is. You plug in on your PC or your Mac, you plug in the back of our Symply Workspace, you're pretty much done. Everybody has Ethernet for things like internet access and general, and you plug that in as well just as a control network. But for the most part, it's really fast, really easy. You're up in, I mean, if you have 2 users, you can be up in 5 minutes. If you have 8 users, you can be running in 15 minutes. So we thought Thunderbolt was the only way to go. One thing that people always say about Thunderbolt, though, I should mention this, is that the standard Thunderbolt cables are going to be under 3 meters long. So from a social distancing standpoint of where we are today, it makes it a little hard. But our friends at Corning, the Corning Glass Company, they did a fantastic job of building fiber, relatively inexpensive fiber. So now we can go up to 50 meters apart. So you could be working from our centralized Symply Workspace. You could have people 100 meters apart because each one could be 50 meters. So quite easy and simple way of extending Thunderbolt.
Excellent. And so your literature states Symply Workspace is a modern, fully virtualized design built with a specialized file system. Why is that important?
Oh, you found that in our literature. Okay. Well, we think it's important because in today's world, you know, if we look at the technology that we based a lot of our modern SANs and NAS is on, a lot of that technology is really unchanged for the last 10 or 15 years. It was safe. It was easy. You have a RAID component, and then you have, even if you're talking about a high performance SAN, such as a StorNext SAN, we're based on StorNext, which is the industry leading file system. But if you had that, you had storage, then you had what we call a metadata controller, which is actually the controller that controls access. It's the traffic cop that controls access to the system. You had that as separate systems, and you had to pay for that. So you bought servers for metadata controllers, you bought RAID protected storage, and if you wanted to run things like a backup engine or a media asset manager, you would have another server for that. So you could have 3, 4, 5 servers in your system, and you'd have to manage them all. And they'd all have different passwords, and they'd all be difficult to manage. So what we did is we said, okay, can we take a higher performance storage RAID system and bond it, you know, actually integrate it into a modern server and build a server into the system? And can we take that and virtualize it using what we call a KVM hypervisor, which is a bare metal virtualizer, without going to the technical pieces, allow us to run multiple applications on the same system. So today with the Symply Workspace, you can literally, and we run StorNext, which is the specialized file system that you talked about. It's an industry standard file system that runs most of media and entertainment. Any large studio, any large broadcaster, a lot of very large post facilities will run StorNext because it allows sharing at a very low level, and it's very high performance and it's very reliable. And so we're one of the few companies in the world that can put StoreNext on our system. So we run StoreNext on there, and it runs on the same computer as a media asset manager. In our case, one of the things we did with the Symply Workspace is we integrated Axle AI, which is a very popular media asset manager. We integrate that right in the system. So it all runs modern, virtualized, and it just runs. One of the bigger things about it, though, and the reason it's really important, is that we can do, from a maintenance and a support standpoint, this system is really made for people who don't have a big IT staff. In fact, that's been Symply's thing since day one. Let's make it simple. I mean, name Symply, right? The idea is don't have a big IT staff. You could just get in there and we can remotely basically upgrade the entire system from the bottom end. Because it's virtualized, we can upgrade certain components of it without touching other components and do it all remotely. And it can happen in the background most of the time while the system is running, not always, but most of the time while the system is running. And we can do it in a matter of minutes. So this thing becomes extremely maintenance-free, becomes extremely friendly for users. And also the same thing, having a virtualized system, if there is ever a problem, we can isolate that problem very quickly because of the tools that we load onto the system as well. So it's very well protected. It protects you against problems in the future and somewhat future-proofs the system. That's why we did it. It was a good catch that you saw that in the literature.
Okay, and so finally, Alex, you also state Symply Workspace is a complete storage workflow. Can you tell me what makes it complete compared to others or earlier offerings from Symply?
That's a really good one as well. So the reason we call it complete is that in the past, and even with a lot of the Symply systems, we really went for what we called user choice. So the idea was that if we supplied the storage and the sharing, you could take a lot of the other tools that you needed and make your selection. For instance, in the upgraded Symply Workspace, one of the things that we did is we added a media asset manager. And part of that is because some of our competitors bolt on a media asset manager into their systems. They have one that runs either on a server that they give you with it, or it will run on their system in some fashion. But realistically, we didn't want to build our own media asset manager because that's not what we do. And so we went to a number of our customers and we asked them, what would you use in a smaller system? What would you use the media asset manager? We heard one name come out on top of everything, and that was Axle. And everybody said, Axle AI. We love it. It's fast. It logs. It just works. And one of the biggest things is it has a lot of AI capabilities built in, and the company's really great to work with. And so we knew the people at Axle for a number of years. And when it came time, we had them build essentially a specialized version that runs in our version of Linux. It's the standard Axle AI, but it's built to be optimized for our system. And because we're virtualized, we run it in there. So now when we call it a complete system, it is out of the box. You simply take it out of the box. There's a few things you have to hook up. You put it on your desk side or on your desktop, and you plug into it. And everything is there. It's complete right out of the box. You just plug an Ethernet cable into it. You plug your Thunderbolt clients into it, and you start up what we call the Symply Workspace Assistant, which is a web-based tool. And it actually allows you to download any drivers you need or anything right to your workstations from that tool without having to even get on the internet otherwise. And it allows you to basically start Axle AI right on there. So it is complete. There's nothing else you need to buy other than power, because you have to have voltage to run it. Other than that, you're ready to go. Just add your clients and go. And then what we do also is we have a very unique, what we call a mini site that lives on our web presence. And it allows you to drive through the setup of it very easily with a few steps online. So you don't have to go through any manuals. We don't have 300-page manuals in the box, nothing crazy like that. You don't even have to call us if you don't want to. You can just get online. You follow the steps through. Each step has a video. So if you're like me and you just can't read past 3 lines, you just watch the 2-minute video and it shows you how to do it. Like, how do I set my IP address? Boom, here you go. Very simple, very easy. And then of course, through all of that, we have a chat function and an email function and a phone. If you want to talk to us or have a question, can't figure it out. And all that support is there. So it's really complete. We also did that because there's a lot of times where people will take these remote, they'll take them on site. While our service is usually available all day and all night, sometimes it's on a Sunday, you're setting up and you just, you had it running in your facility, you moved it out to do, let's say, DIT or any remote editing, and you're like, I don't remember how to set this up. You just jump on the site, you watch the video for 30 seconds, you pause it if you can't get it and go back to it, and boom, you're up and running. So that's why we think we're different in the way we do this. Not to mention, and I know I'm talking a lot about this because I'm excited about it, but the interesting thing is it does offer a level of performance and capabilities and flexibility that no other system out there offers. And so today, we all leapfrog each other, but today, Symply Workspace, we think, is king of the hill.
Excellent. Well, Alex, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
And you can find out more about everything we've spoken to with Alex today at gosimply.com.